solving by factoring in this unit. So here are the first step, everyone. The first rule. First, get it set equal to 0 and get it in standard form. That is the most important thing. Get it in standard form and equal to 0. Then we will then factor it, and then we'll set our factors equal to 0 and solve. Everybody, did you hear the first rule?
No. Anthony's distracting.
Standard form 0. Then factor it, set it equal to 0, and solve. Okay, everyone look at this first problem. Is it in standard form? Yes. Is it set equal to 0? Yes. So now we'll factor it. Pull out an x, divide by x, divide by x. So left is x minus 5. All quadratics should have 2 solutions because it's degree 2. Well, now what we can do is, once we factored it, we can set each of our factors equal to 0 and solve for x. So we get x equals 0 and add 5. X equals 5. Does everybody see? Caution. Once people see this, they get to the test, and when I say factor, if you solve, you get it marked wrong. So do not confuse that on the test. If I say to you solve, you're going to solve by factoring. If I say factor, do not solve, or you're going to get every problem wrong on the test. Okay, moving on. So it says solve. You'd say, oh, I'm going to factor it. To factor it, I have to get it in standard form and equal to 0. So I'm going to add 4. X squared minus 5x plus 4 equals 0. Then you'd say, I'm going to factor it. Well, multiplies to be 4 and adds up to be negative 5. 1 times 4, negative, negative. I can quick factor it, so it factors to be x minus 1, x minus 4. So now we can set each of those equal to 0 and solve. So x minus 1 equals 0, x minus 4 equals 0. So x equals 1, right? Add 4, so x equals 4. Degree 2 should have 2 solutions. Done. Okay, looking at this problem, it says, put it in standard form and get it set equal to 0. Isn't it equal to 0?
Yeah.
Well, in this one, we actually don't need to. Isn't it already factored for us? So then we would say x plus 1 equals 0, x minus 4 equals 0, so we get x equals, and x equals 4. Now look though, caution. You cannot just say we can split this up and set each of these equal to 9. Did you all hear that? It only works with 0. So you have to follow the rules. Get it in standard form and get it equal to 0. There's no other choice. So we have x squared plus 5x minus 3x minus 15 minus 9 equals 0. X squared plus 2x minus 24 equals 0. What multiplies to be negative 24 and adds up to be 2. 6 and 4, negative 4. Can I quick factor? X plus 6, x minus 4 equals 0. So x equals, and x equals 4. I don't recommend going, I do not want to see you do this on the test. Do not just say, okay, so I know it's going to be the opposite of those. Don't. I need to see you write it out like this, because you're going to start messing up, and I'm going to be annoyed that you're just not doing math and you're being lazy. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so looking at this one, it says solve. It's equal to 0. It's already factored. So my solution, x equals 0, and x equals negative 7. Does that make sense, everyone? We set each of those equal to 0. Okay, right here. What multiplies to be 6 and adds up to be 5? 3 times 2. True? So we'd have to drop and break because it's long factoring. So don't quick factor if you have to long factor on the text. 3x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 2. Factoring by grouping. So pull out a 3x. Left is x plus 1. Pull out a positive 2. X plus 1. So pull out x plus 1. And left is 3x plus 2. Set each of those equal to 0. X plus 1 equals 0. 3x plus 2 equals 0. So x equals
-1.
And x equals, yep, subtract 2, divide by 3, negative 2/3. Are we all good?
Yep.
Okay, looking right here, what should I do? Follow the rules. Get it equal to 0, like you're saying, and then make sure it's in standard form. So bring this over. Nope, there's no other way.
No, like -7.
Oh, I was going to say there's no other way, because I've had a few people today go like this, square root, which then what, you know? I see what you're saying, yes, we can go either way. So then we have negative 7z squared plus 14z's equals 0. So then we factor out negative 7z, divide by negative 7z, divide by negative 7z. So then left is z minus 2. So then negative 7z equal to 0. Z minus 2 equal to 0. So what would I do here? People freak out. Divide by negative 7. Don't let that freak you out. Divide by negative 7. Divide by negative 7. So z equals 0. Does everybody see? And z equals? Awesome. Okay, I think we get the picture here. So I'm just going to show you these two because they are different for a very specific reason. So we know that we factor it and then set it equal to 0. So this one's factored and equal to 0. Now we set each of our factors equal to 0. Watch. 2 equals 0, x minus 1 equals 0, and x plus 3 equals 0. So solve for x. 2 equals 0. There's no variable there. You guys see how you cannot solve that? So we get x equals 1 and we get x equals negative 3. Those are our two solutions. There's a difference. With this one, it has a variable. So we have 2x equals 0, x minus 1 equals 0, and x plus 3 equals 0. This one is fine. You guys see the difference? 2 equals 0 versus 2x equals 0. Right here we would divide by 2, and we would get x equals 0. That's great. X equals 1, and x equals negative 3. Okay. So solve, we'd subtract 16, then we factor it, and then set our factors equal to 0. Right here, we need to get it equal to 0 and in standard form. So we'd subtract y squared, add 1. Subtract y squared, add 1. So now we have 3y squared plus 8y, and then plus 4 equals 0, and then we would long factor it. I'm not going to keep going. Okay, so we get it in standard form, we get it equal to 0. Done, done. How would I factor this one? Grouping. So we pull out the greatest common factor, which is y squared. Divide by y squared, we get y minus 1. Pull out negative 9, we get y minus 1. It did factor by grouping, so I pull out y minus 1. Then left is y squared minus 9. Now, doesn't that factor more? So y minus 1, and what does that factor to be? Okay, good. And so now we have 3 solutions. Look, degree 3 should have 3 solutions. Y equals 1, y equals 3, and y equals negative 3. Are we good? We're solving by factoring, right? This is factor, we would stop here. We're using the method of factoring to solve. That's what we've been doing in this lesson. Solving by factoring. We factor it, then we set our factors equal to 0. Yes? So if I had the word factor, you'd only go to here. If I say solve, we're just choosing to use factoring to then solve easily. So we got to factor it and then keep going. We got to solve all the way for y. Yes? I did answer your question? Okay. Awesome. Okay, so let's read this one because it's not going to be worded always so straightforward. So let's read this. It says, suppose f of x is equal to x squared plus 6x minus 3. Find the values of x such that f of x equals 4. What are the points on the graph? So where should I be plugging 4 into? Careful, think before you answer. So where do I plug it in? Do I plug it into x? Or do I plug it in where? Yeah, so you're saying don't plug it in for x. Yeah, you're right. You would not plug it in for x. Look, it says f of x is 4. So that means this is 4, right? So we have 4 is equal to x squared plus 6x minus 3. Do you guys see the difference between f of 4 and f of x equals 4? This would be plugging it in for x. This one's not. Okay, so then how do we solve quadratics? We get them equal to 0, right? And we put them in standard form. 0 is equal to x squared plus 6x minus 7. Then you see what multiplies to be negative 7 and adds up to be 6. 1 times 7, negative 1. I can quick factor. X minus 1, x plus 7. We're solving this one, so we got to keep going. X minus 1 equals 0. X plus 7 equals 0. So x equals 1 and x equals negative 7. We just solved. Now it says it wants us to write it as x, y points. Guys, we set the function equal to 0. When we solve a quadratic, let me show you what we're finding. X-intercepts, guys. So that is a y value of 0. So our x, y points, whenever we're solving, we're always going to have a y value of 0. So it'd be 1, 0 and negative 7, 0. Does that make sense? When solving, it's always y equals 0. Okay. That's why, look, we have y equals 0. Okay, it says find the zeros of this function. What are the x-intercepts of the function? What is this asking me to do? To solve it. Solving is finding the x-intercepts, it's finding the zeros. Does everybody understand that? Just ask me to solve it. What would my y value be? 0. Yes, okay. Now, listen to my last example. The length of a rectangle is 8 feet more than the width. If the area of the rectangle is 84 square feet, what are the dimensions of the rectangle? So I drew a picture. I said, okay, I have a rectangle. We know nothing about the width, so I called the width x, and we know the length is 8 feet more than the width. Do you guys see why I did x plus 8? We know the area is 84, so it says solve for the dimensions. So you're saying, I need to solve for x. Well, to solve for x, I need a true statement. Wouldn't our true statement be area is equal to length times width? So our area is 84. That's equal to our length times our width. Now, how do we solve for x? Yep, standard form equal to 0. Yes, everybody, it's just solving a quadratic, right? So they're saying set it equal to 0 in standard form. Yes, good. So 84 is equal to x squared plus 8x. They were correct. We needed it in standard form and equal to 0. So now we'll subtract 84. So now we have 0 is equal to x squared plus 8x minus 84. Then we're going to do what multiplies to be negative 84 and adds up to be 8. Somebody grab a calculator and try this for me, real quick. 84 divided by 6. 6 times 14. So, which one's negative? 6, and then we're going to quick factor it. So we have this, x minus 6 and x plus 14. Well, if that's true, then we get x equals 6 and x equals... Okay, so those are our solutions, but we got to be careful here. Okay, so we know that x equals 6, that will work. Look, couldn't we have a 6 here? If that's 6, this will be 14. We have a 6 by 14. Now, x equals negative 14. Are we ever going to have a negative side length? No, so even though this answer is correct, for a story problem, that would not even make sense to have a negative side length. So we throw that answer out. You're always going to have one negative. You're not going to have two positives. I always have people say, well, what if we have two positives? So then we have two answers, you know? One will be negative, so they'll throw that one out. Keep it positive. Sweet! That is the end. So finish 5.8. I'm just going to have you do either evens or odds. I'm not saying pick 5 because you need to make sure you hit every different type of problem that we've seen. So if you pick evens or odds, you'll make sure you hit every single type of problem.